Hey, let's go ahead and bring in Dr. Gerald Shiner, psychiatrist based in Birmingham. Thanks for being on with us this
Thank
evening.
you.
I want to start by asking you how does social media impact young minds?
It impacts in several different levels and in many different ways. Kids are lonely, they're isolated, they need attention, and if they're not getting it at home, if they're isolated from their peers, social media is a safe way to interact with people. You're not going to get rejected. You can pull the plug. You don't have to show who you really are. And if anyone shows interest in you, these kids are just running after it and soaking it up, and they're easily exploited, they're easily groomed, and they can be taken, kidnapped, and trafficked very easily. The other thing is their political opinions and their judgment can be undermined too by what they see. And there's a lot of peer pressure. They see something cool on the internet, they talk to their friends about it. The next thing you know, they're playing Slender Man games, and they had three girls tried to murder a fourth member of their crew just to impress the Slender Man. So they're vulnerable to those kinds of social pressures and those kind of fantasy games too. And there's no control, there's no limit. Parents can't control it. You can keep an eye on your kids. You can make them use their instruments in public areas of the house. Kids have their own accounts. They'll have secret accounts. They'll use other instruments, phones, computers, or whatever. So it's very hard to control.
And it's a lot to keep up with, especially if you didn't grow up with all of these social media platforms. I mean, even those of us who did, it's a lot to keep up with. Something Skylar Henry just touched on there. We heard from today's testimony that Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg stopped short of apologizing to families that lost children to being harmed by social media. Do you think Zuckerberg, other CEOs are at fault?
I think, look, their job is shareholder value and to make money for their companies. They're developing a product.
I like your bluntness there. And the reality of the situation.
That's what a CEO does, and if they don't, they kick them out and get someone else. I think they have some degree of social responsibility, and they try to be responsible. They try to put controls in. The government wants lots of controls. I don't think that that's a bad idea, and they don't want that to happen, so they have to stick up for their own interest, the interest of their shareholders and their users. And those things evolve and grow and get more complex. So my generation, as tech savvy as I can be, I couldn't keep up with a teenager today. And I've seen them text with one hand and a thumb while they're talking to me and carrying on a conversation. I can't even imagine doing that.
Who says young kids can't multitask? Okay, from your answer, is it safe for me to assume then that you think most of the responsibility, the accountability here is on the parent, or the guardian?
I think a lot of it is on the parent and the guardian to monitor. You can't keep a teenager from doing something that he wants to do. They've got more time and imagination to get around you. But if you monitor them, at least they have a message that you're watching, you're worried about them, you want to know what they're doing, they're getting the right kind of attention, and you can prevent the worst of tragedies maybe. I don't think the CEOs are completely off the hook in this, and there's a lot more that they can do.
Yeah, that craving so many people have for validation on social media can certainly be dangerous. To bring people back to what you do, you're a psychiatrist, so your opinion means a lot, and I'm very curious to hear when parents struggle with getting their child a phone. I mean, what is your opinions on age, or maybe not age, but taking into account your child's personality or some important factors, because that's probably going to be the takeaway for a lot of people tonight, weighing those pros and cons. What comes with the phone?
That's a tough question
I know.
because the phones aren't bad. The kids aren't bad. The combination is bad. And when you get a child a phone, it's as much for your convenience as the child. You want to know where they are. You want to be able to reach them. You want them to be able to reach you when they need a ride or when they're in trouble. But you have to teach responsible use. As an age, you have to look at the child's maturity. Some 11 or 12-year-olds can handle it. Some 15 or 16-year-olds can't. The thing that you want to watch for, and the biggest danger sign, is the kid whose nose is buried in his phone all the time, and he shucks all of his social obligations. He doesn't interact at the dinner table. And I was at a dinner party with all adults, prominent attorneys, federal judges. One of the attorneys, single, was texting his girlfriend, and another attorney's wife said, you know, we don't let our kids use cell phones at the dinner table, you have to put that down. He turned red. So, so you have to look at the maturity of the child, and you have to set some limits and boundaries. You can't use your instrument, you can't use your phone under these conditions, and if you're getting too absorbed, we'll have to have timeouts. And the phone is a necessity in today's society. When kids are stranded, when they need a ride, when their ride doesn't show up, you want them to call you and you want to be able to call them.
Scary thinking about them not having one. One thing I made note of here, and this will be my last question for you, Meta said it will prohibit people 19 and older from being able to message teens who don't follow them on Instagram, meaning you have an adult. If somebody's not following you, you can't just get into their direct messages and strike up a conversation. Do you think that will have positive effect?
I think it will. I think it'll send a message that you can't troll these kids, you can't bait them or groom them, and you can't go trolling for them. These tools and these platforms are adaptable, and you can always find a way around. You know, my joke at the office, if my secretary can't do something, I say, you need a 12-year-old to work your computer and give you a workaround. But I think it's a good step because, again, it may not be as preventive as we hope, but it sends a message that we're watching and we're going to set limits. And every time we see someone get around one of our boundaries, we're going to address it and set up a new boundary to try to keep this from happening. And there's a leapfrog process, but that's the best we can do.
All right. It's all about doing your best. Thank you so much, Dr. Gerald Scheiner. We appreciate your time tonight.
Thank you.